Hey there, and welcome back to the Peak Performers Podcast. Thanks for joining us for part 2, where we'll hear all about Ron White's incredible Afghanistan memory wall, right here on the Peak Performers Podcast.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
So in the entire system, nowhere are you really remembering their entire face. It's really that distinctive piece on their face that you're honing in on. Is that correct?
The whole face is there, and it's a picture, and you're seeing the whole face, of course. But the distinctive feature is kind of a brain trigger for you storing their name. For example, if you see a man and his name is Steve, and Steve has got big ears, well, you're cooking his ears in a stove, but maybe the stove, you incorporate the rest of the face too, and the stove, and you see the stove wrapping around his face or whatever. So you're seeing the whole face, but the file is a distinctive feature. Now let me give you one kind of important distinction here, because a lot of people are going to get frustrated. They're going to go out there and like, Ron, I can't imagine pictures. I can't see pictures. I can't visualize clearly like you do. Who said I'm visualizing clearly? I'm not seeing a crystal clear 3D image. It's more of an impression. It's more like a general feeling. When I look over there, I see a stove on his ears. But be assured of this. Be assured of this. It's not a crystal clear 3D image in full bright color. So don't put that expectation on yourself. And for the people who say, Ron, I can't visualize, I would say, oh, really? So do you dream? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I dream. I'm like, well, when you dream, are you reading words? Is it like text on a screen and you're reading? They're like, no, I see pictures. I'm like, well, you're visualizing. So we can all do it. Tiger Woods, the great golfers, they'll sit there and visualize themselves hitting the golf ball in the hole. Basketball players will visualize themselves succeeding and sinking the basket. So it's a tool that professional athletes use at the very highest levels. And we can all do it. We just need to employ it for memory as well.
Now, how did this all start? I mean, did you just wake up one day as like an 8-year-old and go, hey, I want to memorize a whole bunch of stuff?
No, I was very inquisitive as a kid. I remember, probably being 12 or 13 years old, and I found a book on the presidents of the United States, and I just started copying it down word for word. I would read a sentence in the book about George Washington, and I would write it down. I'd read another sentence, and I would write it down. I was just copying it. My dad was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? What's the point? I'm like, I don't know. I just want to learn all this. And so I guess I was inquisitive. In other words, I wasn't doing it for school. It wasn't homework. I just wanted to learn all about the presidents. So I was always inquisitive. But to answer your question, did I have a great memory, or did I set out a goal as memory? No, not at all. When I was in high school in the late 80s, early 90s, probably 80, 89, 90, 91 was my high school years. There was an infomercial, Kevin Trudeau, Mega Memory. And I was in my friend Jason's house, and we were watching this infomercial, and we were mesmerized by this memory guy. We were like, oh, my God. And I think at the time his memory course was about $80. I'm not sure. And we were both like, man, we got to get this. I'll pitch in $40. You pitch in $40. Let's get it. We're like, yeah, let's do it. And we were high school kids, so we didn't do it. And then I graduated high school. 2 weeks after graduating high school, I became a telemarketer for a company that cleaned chimneys. And I called this guy up. I said, hey, man, we want to clean your chimney. He said, we don't want our chimney cleaned. We're trying to sell the house. Thanks for calling. And I said, whoa, don't hang up the phone. If you're trying to sell your house, you need a clean chimney. He laughed. He said, I don't know about that, but I do need a good salesman. Do you want to go to work for me? I sell memory training seminars. I was like, dude, that is so cool. I know. I saw those infomercials of this guy named Kevin Trudeau selling infomercials on TV last year. He goes, well, that's the company I'm asking you to go to work for. Do you want to go to work for us? I'm like, yes. So I took down his information. I went to work I interviewed 2 days later and started working for him probably 3 or 4 days later. And that's how I got into it. And that's a really important distinction in my story. Why is it so important? Because when people hear that I held the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards, or I held the record for the longest number memorized in 5 minutes, 167-digit number, they assume that I have a gift, a natural ability, I'm a savant, I have something special about my memory. I don't. I was an 18-year-old kid who saw an infomercial, and then I met the guy who worked for that company, and he offered me a job based on my sales ability, not based on my memory ability. And I went to work for him, and that's how I got into it. So nothing special in regards to memory. Everybody listening to this audio right now can do exactly what I did.
They've got to put in the work, and they've got to go through those 5 steps and do it over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. He's the guy who taught me the 5 steps, and that company is no longer in existence anymore. But I left and I started my own company. But yeah, the steps are the same, and it works for anybody.
Who's holding you accountable? Many will answer, myself. Well, that only goes so far. You'll do more for others than you'll do for yourself. If you're not getting the results that you want, need, and desire, it comes down to your accountability. If you're ready to stop dabbling and really play full out, head on over to thorconklin.com, and under services, check out our real accountability system. This is not for the timid or weak of heart. This is only for those individuals that are truly committed to taking their game to the next level. Now, let me ask you this. There's a lot of science around that men and women learn differently. We store things differently. One person has actually defined this as men kind of have like a waffle brain, and we've got to stick it into like a little file in order to retrieve it. In women, everything seems to be all bundled together like a wire, this wire mesh. Are there any differences between men and women going through these techniques?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but I have some guesses. I compete in the USA Memory Championships, the World Memory Championships at the very highest level. I haven't competed in memory tournaments in 2 or 3 years because I'm focusing on my business, but I competed for a good 6 or 7 years, and it was a lot of fun for me. It is a primarily male-dominated sport, and yes, the people who compete refer to it as a sport. Why? Because we're a bunch of nerds, and we want to call it a sport because we want to see ourselves as athletes. And I'm kind of joking with that. I don't really see myself as a nerd, but it is a very intellectual group. Now, when the people competing, do I notice a difference in how the males are memorizing as opposed to how the females are memorizing? I do not. I see differences among people, but I don't see differences really among sexes. In other words, one guy might have a little bit different twist on it than another, and a woman might have a little bit different twist on it, but I don't see anything breaking down on gender lines. In other words, visualization and seeing things in locations tends to work for everybody. Maybe the guy's pictures are maybe a little bit more graphic or gruesome or provocative, and the women's pictures might be not as violent, I guess. Because whenever you create these pictures, they need to be crazy. But as far as that goes, that may be the only difference. I will say this: in the memory world community, the world championships in that, it is primarily 75, 80, 85% male. And I don't think that's because males have better memories. I just think it is a sport where you memorize a deck of cards and you got to devote an hour a day to memorize a deck of cards. I think instinctively guys think that's really cool. And just ladies don't, they know it's not. So I think that might be the only thing. I mean, I get Facebook messages all the time. Oh, Master Ron, can you teach me how to, today somebody called me Uncle Ron. I'm like, I'm not Master Ron. I'm not Uncle Ron. My name is Ron. But he's like, can you teach me how to memorize a deck of cards? I'm so fascinated by this. I'll tell you that it's 85% male, the questions. So I see guys are, I think, drawn to magic a little bit more and memory and that kind of stuff as far as tournaments go. But I don't see any difference of the males and females who use this system.
Okay, I know we had every male listener here listening intently because they wanted an answer to why does their wife or their girlfriend remember stuff that happened 7 years ago and memorized every single thing about the conversation they can't remember last week.
Right. And, it probably goes down to action or emotion. There was some emotion involved in it. You wore this red shirt and this woman looked at you and smiled and you smiled back and boom, that irritated her. And that is emotion. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As you were saying that the more emotion and the story that you gave about 9/11 and the car accident really resonated because when we can connect that emotional event to that memory, I can see how it gets locked in. And I think women do that a lot more than men do.
Yeah, sure. And it's action and emotion, and that's why.
That's brilliant. Now, I didn't say anything in the bio about the Afghanistan wall, and I want you to go into a little bit of detail what you do there because I think this is really neat and very moving.
Well, I joined the military after September 11th. I was 28 years old when September 11th happened. I was over at my friend's house, and he said, "Hey, man, don't laugh at me, but tomorrow I'm going to join the Army." And this wasn't September 12th. It wasn't the next day, but it was within a month or two. And I said, you know what? It was one of those things I didn't even have to think about for 2 seconds. I was like, I am too. I'm doing that. So we went down to the recruiting station the next day. He was a high school teacher, so he joined as a reservist 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. I also joined as a reservist because I was 10 years into my memory training career, 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. He ended up joining the Army, and I joined the Navy because I have an IQ. And we both served – that's kind of a joke – but we both served for 8 years, 2002 to 2010 as reservists. So we both did our 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summertime typically, with the exception of 2005. In 2005, he was deployed to Afghanistan. He was stationed at Bagram Air Force Base. And in 2007, I was deployed to Afghanistan. I spent a little bit of time at Bagram, but I spent most of my time in the capital city of Kabul at a base called ISAF headquarters. It was literally 3 blocks from Hamid Karzai, the president's palace. And it was an intense time in my life, 2007. I arrived July 5th, 2007 at 4 a.m. You fly in the middle of the night because it's dark and it's harder to shoot your aircraft down. And probably 3 or 4 hours later, I was doing my first convoy from Bagram to Kabul, which is a 90-minute drive. It was an intense time. I remember, as we passed vehicles parked on the side of the road, as you're going by them, that if there's an IED, that's where the IED is going to be hidden. And it was just the first time I passed one of those cars on the road or a pothole or whatever, your heart just pauses for a second. Is this it? I did that 90-minute convoy. It was a pretty intense time. I remember buzzing through the streets of Kabul, and it was just more words can't explain the thoughts you're going through when 3 weeks prior you're teaching a memory seminar in Wilmington, North Carolina. And maybe that's probably not right. 5 weeks prior, you're teaching a memory seminar in Wilmington, North Carolina. And the next thing you know, you're buzzing through the streets of Afghanistan and the dust is flying everywhere and there's people running all around. And so over the next several months, I did about 51 convoys. And, one day I go on a mission to this location and I come back. The next day, they send out another team to that same location, and their convoy is attacked. And one of the men died, and another one, he lived, but he lost his eyes. So when I got back from Afghanistan, and I took a little bit of a time getting to the story of the Afghanistan memory wall, but I kind of want to give you the background on it. When I got back from Afghanistan, I It won the USA Memory Championship twice. I set the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards. Those records stood for 2 years. My records were broken in 2011. And so then I started thinking, what am I going to do? What's my next project? And somebody said, Ron, how long would it take you to memorize the Vietnam Wall? We want to do a History Channel TV show, and it's going to be a special about the Vietnam Wall, and we want you to memorize the Vietnam Wall. Really, the whole show is going to be about you memorizing the wall. And I'm like, man, that sounds like a great idea. Let's do it. And then the History Channel ended up coming back and saying, no, we're not going to do it. Thank goodness the History Channel said no, because it was 59. There's 59,000 names on the Vietnam Wall. So then I start thinking about it, and I'm like, well, why should I memorize the Vietnam Wall? I served in Afghanistan, and the idea is born. So I spent the next 10 months, May of 2012 to February 2013, memorizing everybody who died in Afghanistan in the order of their death. There's 2,300 of them. I memorized their rank, their first name, and their last name. So it's 7,000 words. It took me 10 months to do it. And what I do now is I travel around the United States with a 56-foot long wall. It's 56 feet long. It's 8 feet high. It resembles a black marble surface like the Vietnam Wall, except it's not marble. It's a dry erase surface. And I will get a white marker, and I'll set it up, and I will write out all 7,000 words, all 2,300 people in the order of their death from memory. I don't read anything. I'm writing this out from memory. And I do it as a way to say that you're not forgotten. Imagine this. Imagine you're watching the Vietnam Wall get created right in front of your eyes, but you're seeing it be created from memory. That's what the Afghanistan Memory Wall is.
Amazing. And I saw you literally pull out names. It's not that it's even in order. You do it in order, but you're able to go and pick a name out in the middle of it. It was an amazing thing to watch.
So I've done it, 25 times now, and somebody will walk up to the wall. This happens every single time. Every time this happens. Somebody will walk up to the wall, and either they've heard about it on the radio or TV, and so they'll come out to see it, or they'll walk by the wall, and they'll say, what is this? And I remember being in New York, and I was doing it in Times Square or for Fox News. Fox and Friends, the morning show, had me do it for Memorial Day. And I was out there doing it, and a lady walks by and she said, what is that? And I said, this is the Afghanistan Memory Wall. This is everybody because when people see it, it looks so much like the Vietnam Wall. They're like taken aback. Is this? So that's it. She knew it was military related. So she said, what is this? And I explained to her what it is. And within seconds, tears fill her eyes. And she just voice started cracking. And she said, is Derek Hernandez on that wall? So yes, he is. He was a Lance Corporal. And her jaw just dropped. She said, oh my God, I can't believe you know his rank. So I walked her to the wall. He's right around number 1,294. And I walked her right to his name, and I showed her the name. I was in San Antonio, and a woman came up to me, and she said, I heard about this on the radio. Is Daryl Lewis on the wall? I said, yes, ma'am, he is. He was a captain. He's number 409 on this wall. I said, how do you know him? And she said, I was his wife. And it's just so powerful because they're seeing their friends or their loved ones remembered. But yes, I will. They will tell me the name, and I will take them directly to the spot on the wall where the name is.
Absolutely amazing. And thank you for that work that you do. Absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, And if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources, discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
That was memory training expert Ron White. Joining us next time for part 3, where Ron and Thor will really dive into how improving your memory will improve your business on the Peak Performers Podcast. See you at the top.